Welcome back to the channel, guys. I am your host, Zach, and today we are looking at building out a little 7 priorities of survival kit. So we've been digging through our little survival dungeon here and seeing what we can come up with. So let's see what we figured out today here on Airborne Outdoors. Okay, so quick and easy with our water kit options. Just went with the Pathfinder 32-ounce bottle. Just because works great with the water tabs. 1 liter, 1 liter, and so we can filter out our water like that, or purify it anyway. Added a Nalgene bottle, thinking we can boil the water, have some hot water, dump it in here, obviously for drinking, but also to throw that in your sleeping bag or your blanket or whatever you got, whatever you're doing. So in this kit we have couple liter water bottle options. Threw in just a compact little foldable bottle. This is just a 16-ounce bottle, and just because it's compact and easy to add into a pack like this where we might need a lot of water. Like I said, we're in the winter conditions right now, and sometimes it's hard to know when you're thirsty, so this would be another great option to just fill that up out of that bottle. And for my filter kit, I went with the whole Platus system, thinking, if this is a 3-day kit, if this is a week kit, even if I'm going to try to survive out of this bag for a month, I'm going to need to be able to filter some water. And I do have some streams nearby, and I even have some fresh water streams nearby that I could just drink out of, which I do all the time. But as mentioned by one of my subscribers the other day, something to do, because it says right on here, this is the Gravity Works for this kit, this is the filter. See if I can get that to focus, but it says don't drop it or let it freeze. So I got my little necklace there to just have that against my body at all times, and just only pull that out when I'm gonna filter the water. And these are like 3-liter bags in here. You got a dirty bag, you fill up with the dirty water, you hang that up, and you plug in your hose, plug it into the filter, plug in the other hose, plug it into the clean bag. And in about 10 minutes, you got the whole other 3 liters good to go. So I'd be able to fill up both of these bottles, this bottle, slam it and fill it up again, and pack everything away and counter flow this. Shows you which way it flows. So you take a drink of clean water out of there, and you could push it back the opposite direction through here. What I usually do is in that clean water bag, then I hang that up and let the clean water flow backwards through there. When I'm out camping, I use this, and I'll just let it do it for the whole system. But that's the water portion of the essentials of survival. So let's move on to the next category. So onto the food portion of the kit, guys. Very simple. Just went with the Mainstay 3,600 calorie emergency food ration bar. Vacuum sealed. I think these last about 5 years. Some of them last up to 10 years. But these are just a simple, compact. These ones might actually be expired, but I'd probably eat them if I had to. Compact way to store a bunch of calories in a small kit. Like I said before, they're not exactly healthy. They're just made out of flour and sugar and oil, but they will definitely give you enough energy. Them 3,600 calories. I mean, that's 1,200 calories a day for 3 days. But really, you could eat 3,600 calories in 1 day and no problem. But if you've learned to control yourself with your eating, this would definitely last you 3 days, no problem, because you don't really need to eat much, especially them first couple days. I would probably just fast for 3 days before I even broke into this thing. But that's just a simple meal option. And then, I was thinking about some of the other options as far as adding calories to this bag. Nuts and protein bars and dehydrated meals. And what can you really pack some calories in and be healthy, unlike this bar, is just some olive oil. This jar is 120 calories per serving, and it's 17 servings. So, and that's some healthy fat. I mean, you wouldn't want to eat all of this for a day, but, eating like 3 of those for your 1,200 calories and taking a couple tablespoons, you could even take about 3 or 4 to make it 3 days of food with some additional healthy fat. Really help you add on them calories with, you know, very little weight. What is this? This is 8.5 ounces, and it's just a ton of calories. So quick, simple. Let's get to the next category. So here we are in the shelter and warmth category, divided up in categories a little different than your 10 C's of survivability. But we have my grabber space blanket that I used on my experimental bug out the other day. And I learned a couple things. One is it has very small grommets, too small to fit a very strong at all stick through it. So I just tied off some reflective cordage there to be able to, and then I brought the stakes as well, because down on them river bottoms all the wood is dead and dry and brittle. Of course, even a little damp. It's easy to collect firewood and keep a fire going, but it's a little difficult to get it going. But anyway, so now I think I would set this up more like the lean-to. Have my stakes to stake that down good. And then I got the SOL Escape Bivy. If you don't know what that is, check it out. These are, maybe I'll do a review on this in a couple days, just showing my big self jump in there and stay warm all night, which I have done before. It's getting cold out in Minnesota right now, but like I said on that little adventure bug out the other day, sitting next to a fire, really getting out of the wind and being next to a fire is amazing. So we got that grabber, we got that with that emergency bivy, and then we just have that large space blanket for 2. So that could really wrap everybody up. And to add, so this category, it has the shelter and the warmth. And I have my fire kit there, but before we get to that, I'm going to talk about this little piece of kit. So I have my little stove in here. It's like your little, just cheap little Amazon stove that fits on the top of your tank. And this is self-igniting, so it sparks up itself. You don't need a lighter, although I have one. I have taken this on multi-day trips where I cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner on it for 3 or 4 days. And I've never even came close to putting a dent in the amount of fuel is in this thing. So it might be a little different case now, where I might even want to use that to heat up my shelter at first. But definitely a quick and easy way to boil water. Even get a fire going. If you're really having a hard time, you could fire that thing up and use it like a flamethrower. But that is just a great option, I think, for... especially if it's just like, hey, I'm building a 72-hour kit. That can's going to cook you 3 meals a day for 3 days, and you could probably buy one half that size. So my fire kit, I got the UCO mattress, storm mattress, waterproof case, 25 matches. Can't go wrong. Great for starting a fire. I mean, if you got a bird's nest, this is all you need. Got that lighter wrapped in the orange. Make sure we can find it. Added in the live fire. This is the full-size live fire, because some of that wood down there, like I put that wet fire down there, and it really had to burn that whole wet fire up before I was able to get that little kindling going. Of course, I need to be a little more diligent and find the smaller kindling, but it got it going. But it made me realize, something like this could really be good. If you had never used these, it's just full of some impregnated type cotton in there, where you can just easily spark it and get it going, and open this case halfway and slide it under the fire and get it going. You can slide it out and shut it and save it for next time. Along with the fire kit, I just went with this whole tube. I don't really want to dump it all out, but it's got the wax tinder in there. It's got a ferro rod and striker. It's got the bellow. Threw a couple matches in there. So it's kind of an all-in-one kit, just something simple for your fire kit. Comes in its own little weatherproof fire starting kit case. And then kind of fire, and also I'll throw it in the signaling category, but just a red signal flare. Obviously, it could really help to start a fire with this. But also, you know, to just hang on to it and use it as your signaling device when you see that helicopter or that airplane going by. But yeah, red signal flare, burns up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, windproof. I mean, I've fired these off. You know, you got the match cap there. You take this cap off, and then the top of it, it kind of looks like a large match, and you just strike it on there, and boom, it gets going. And it just burns hot, flaming. It's not a smoke bomb or nothing, but it's a big red light, and you know, so to signal a plane. You could do a figure eight with it, or you could really, you know, use to signal an aircraft, and of course to get your fire going. So that's the shelter options, guys. I'm trying to make this not a huge kit, but really still cover the essentials of survival. So there's my shelter and warmth options. I think we're fairly covered, so let's move on to the next category. So this category, guys, we're moving on to the first aid, and I just wanted to make this really simple. So I just dug out that trauma pack. You got the quick clot in there. You got a bunch of gauze and tape and scissors, and yeah, you got 2 4-inch bandages, 2 2-inch bandages, 3-inch roll of gauze, 5x9 trauma pad, 25-gram packet of that quick clot, the duct tape. And so this has everything for pretty massive severe bleeding, and just all in one kit. And then to add to that, did I open this yet? I haven't even opened this one yet, but just to add to that, have along with this first aid, I just put together a really simple first aid kit, just with some bandages. This would be stuff to not have to open that trauma pack for just a minor little cut. So we got just a couple gauze pads, we got all of our medications, and then this is the main thing here, just a couple band-aids, couple band-aids in the bottom there, couple alcohol swabs, and a couple triple antibiotic ointment. That alone is just to be able to patch up those small little nicks and scrapes and cuts that you don't want to get dirty. While you're building your fire, building your shelter, you cut your finger. You don't really want to stop what you're doing and have to deal with this big, you know, you don't want to let your thumb bleed out for an hour, you know, just to patch it up quick and move on. So that's just something, again, I'm trying to make this kit small to maybe even fit into like a really small backpack or sling bag type of configuration. So we'll check that out at the end of the video, what we can fit all this into. So let's move on to the next category. So for our next category, guys, it talks about our tools and gear type items. Again, keeping in mind, I'm just trying to keep this streamlined and small. Just went with this Gerber folding blade. Nice heavy duty folding knife. Big enough to get the camp craft done that I'm thinking about doing in the use of this kit, as far as stringing up that shelter and feathering out some sticks. And, you know, being in the Army and being in the field for weeks and weeks at a time, you never even use a knife. But I understand we're not in the military and we're going to be doing a little more bushcraft. But I think this is something lightweight and small enough. And like I said, without having to add a large fixed blade knife, to try to keep this something small enough and compact enough to fit in that smaller size bag. So just a hank of 50 feet of paracord, just good quality paracord. Little Energizer headlamp. Got 3 AA's, got three settings, just medium, high, low. It has a long run time. Would definitely get you through a couple nights of, well, that first night of building a shelter in the dark, or having to check traps or snares or fishing in the dark, or whatever it happens to be. This is going to be a decent option. Went ahead and just folded down flat. This is about a half a roll of Gorilla Tape. I had used a bunch of it already. I was going to make a smaller piece, and I was like, you know what, if I just smash this down, this is extremely useful. You know, when it comes to patching that space blanket or taping together some of those, maybe that space blanket and that other Mylar blanket to maybe cover the sides or the front, maybe like almost making like a super shelter if I can find some clear plastic to hang down the front. But gear repair, you know, shelter alteration, first aid, of course, I always bring that up with duct tape. But then also I threw, you know, we went through this Doug Ritter kit the other day, and I had some items in here that would have been included here. One of them was the whistle, and I was like, let me just throw this, show the example of where you would throw this kind of kit in. You know, we got the whistle in there, and then we got the little fishing kit. We got needle and thread and snare wire and another small flashlight and another small little folding knife, backup paracord, backup fire starter. We got the tin foil. I mean, just a useful, for the size of this kit and the size of, to add this, why not? You know, so that fills out that category. So let's look on to see what the next category is going to be. So the next category, guys, ends up just being that signaling and communication. And again, that was another reason I threw this in. You know, we've got that small signal mirror in here. We've got that Fresnel lens. We've got the cell phone itself. You know, you know, it's the priorities are survival. It'll tell you bring like a small hand crank radio or something. But I mean, they invented these kits way before cell phones were around. So to me, it would be more like, you know, bring, just maybe I'll add like a small phone charger. This is just like a little Anchor power bank with the C charger on there. So let's just add that to the kit and be like, our phone is our backup for our radio and our you know, because even if you don't have signal, you can use like the GPS function on your phone, which I've done many times when I'm up hiking and I have no signal. The GPS still works and shows me walking right along the path and shows me how far the next campsite is. And so it could be useful in that situation too, out in the wild, and you don't have any cell phone service, but boom, you can connect in and find, you know, navigate your way around. So that's a quick and easy way to get through that category. So let's move on to the next. Okay, guys, hang in there. We're just about ready to wrap up this kit. And one of the final categories is hygiene. And I didn't have a whole lot I wanted to throw into this kit, just because I wanted it to be a smaller, compact kit. I just threw in a few of those dude wipes, you know, when shit happens, you know, you need them. And this bag, I'm not going to dig everything. Well, there's not even anything in there, but I'm not going to show it. But like, to bring your documentation, you know, some cash, your passport, your ID. But it makes me think about my EDC, you know, my wallet's in my pocket. My phone's in my pocket. You know, I have, maybe in my front pocket, I have a Swiss Army knife and some matches and a flashlight and some paracord. But anyway, this bag, even if you don't have it packed out because you don't want to have your documents in with your, you know, your bug out bags and stuff, I attach, like on my bug out bag, I have a green pouch attached to the front. And it's empty, and it's there to remind me, hey, grab that stuff and throw that in there. So just to wrap up the you know, the few last categories, you know, just a little bit of hygiene. You know, you could throw in a toothbrush, a toothpaste, floss, for hand sanitizer, some wipes, and then some cash and all your documents. And then last but not least, and I'm not going to go dig all this stuff out right now, but it's to just dress appropriately. You know, it'll say bring spare socks, hat and gloves, you know, like long underwear, top and bottoms, like under, you know, base layer, you know, which I have some nice base layer stuff. But like for that, for me, is not in the kit. Like when I go out and when I was practicing bug out, you know, I had 2 base layers on, 3 pairs of socks on, you know, 2 jackets, 3 jackets on, hat and gloves, spare hat and gloves, you know, just all. That's just grab on the way out the door. It's all right there. And so I don't always put those in the bag. But that wraps up this kit. I think I'm going to just lay it out here and see what all we got. And we'll just leave it at that, guys. And you guys can let me know what you think. We won't actually stuff it all out into a bag. We'll just see what it looks like, what kind of bag you could get it into. Okay, guys, so there it is, all laid out. Now that I got it sitting all on the table here, it doesn't look like it would be a very big bag at all. I could fit all this stuff in, and I think it'd be very complete. One thing I did forget, guys, I got this little medication bottle here to remind me to, you can grab maybe some of your prescription drugs or allergy meds or something you have like that you might want to add in there. But It looks like just a small backpack. You could fit this in and really look like, you know, that gray man. And matter of fact, I think in the next video, I will pack this up into just a small plain backpack and head out the door, and we'll go see what we can do this out in the wilderness white wonderland of the Minnesota winter. So thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. We just passed up 125 subscribers. Small channel, just getting started, hoping for the best. You know, stroke survivor, paratrooper veteran, just trying to do the best I can do, bringing wonderful kits to the YouTube community. So I hope you guys will help support me by liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, commenting on the video, and just say, hey, you know, nice kit, shitty kit, you know, don't like that food, put a bigger knife, whatever you'd like, guys. I just thank you so much, and I'm so glad to be here and glad you guys are enjoying the channel and checking me out. Again, guys, thank you for checking out Airborne Outdoors, and I will see you in the next video.